I think personally, I think they've separated their professional lives, but I think what's really a great problem for them now, as of in the last few weeks, is that Meghan has got no real income anymore. She's finished.
Tom Bower, the legendary royal author, is sharpening his quill for a new edition of his book set to reveal huge secrets inside Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's marriage.
A man who she abandoned for months to the media and now presents her mother, Doria, speaking for the first time, telling outright lies about her ex-husband. I mean, this was a calculated attempt against the family.
Last week, we brought to you fresh news that Harry had been staying at the San Vicente bungalows to take a break from his family, despite owning a sprawling Montecito property together with Guesthouse. And this week, those rumours are intensifying.
Well, you know, Piers, you're the first person to say how limited Prince Harry is, unfortunately, and how his wife trades off her husband's fame and fortune, or not so great fortune now. I mean, this is the problem. But we're still interested because, after all, he's a great character in our modern day.
Tom just exposed everything about Meghan's marriage, and it's all buried deep in page 14, clause 7. And this part is seriously shocking. Reports say it may have been signed without fully realizing what was being agreed to, which makes this whole situation even more intense. When you hear what's hidden inside that clause, so many things start to click. Especially why Meghan suddenly re-signed with Sunshine Sachs in January 2026. It also draws attention to quiet money shifts that have reportedly been happening since
And of course, the news today that Harry's memoir is going to be published in the near future will just alarm the royal family here in England about what he's actually going to say to earn his money.
2022, with no major headlines at all. And now it's clearer why Tom Bower is warning that someone could be on the edge of losing everything tied to this situation. This isn't small drama, it's major. But before getting into that clause, there's something important to understand. Tom Bower isn't just some random voice online. He's a former BBC investigative journalist with decades of experience going after powerful figures people usually avoid. He exposed Robert Maxwell, dug into major business dealings, and uncovered details others wouldn't touch. This isn't guesswork. It's built on legal reviews.
Meghan herself.
And Meghan herself.
In the months before she met Harry, was setting up paparazzi pictures in London. She now acts as if the paparazzi are literally the devil incarnate.
She begged the paparazzi to photograph her, and they wouldn't. And when they did, she says, "Oh, I don't want to, I'm hurt." And that ridiculous story about how they first met, the whole thing was a tissue of inaccuracies, to be polite.
Well, because what do you make of that? Because as you know, Harry was always very insistent.
Interviews and documented evidence. For his book Revenge, he reportedly conducted over 80 interviews with people connected to Meghan, including palace staff and legal experts who understand contracts deeply. He builds his work like a legal case, structured, detailed, and ready to be challenged. So when he points to something...
Aggressive PR for the Sussexes got way beyond herself because she really doesn't understand the British royal family or Britain, but understands how to project her clients. And so I think she got it wrong by leaking it or even letting anyone know about it.
Something specific, he's not just speculating. He's working off information from professionals who know how these agreements are built. He even looked into how California law can clash with British systems, which adds a whole new layer of tension. And what he highlights on page 14 suddenly explains a lot. Meghan bringing back Sunshine Sachs doesn't look random anymore. It lines up with something bigger. That firm is known for handling high-profile breakups and media storms, so this move feels strategic. Now, most prenups are pretty basic. They outline what each person brings in and how things...
And so he became hypersensitive and blamed the media for the crashes of his relationships, never thinking that they could have something to do with himself. So he's a very complicated, depressed, unintelligent man who is seeking a role and has got really nobody on whom he could rely, which is in the end where Meghan stepped in. I mean, a needy man met a woman who could help him with his needs.
Get divided if things fall apart. Sometimes they include financial support terms, but nothing too extreme. But royal-level agreements? That's a different game entirely. They protect long-term assets, control titles, and even include rules about media behavior and public image.
And what would Diana think of Harry attacking William in that way? She'd be appalled by her son's behavior. And that was, again, so nauseating, the way he kept on bringing in Diana. Diana, who appealed to the media all the time, who phoned journalists secretly, who brought Martin Bashir into her office, who cooperated with Andrew Morton, who kept on calling Richard Kay. I mean, this is ridiculous.
Here's where Clause 7 starts to stand out even more. In high-level agreements like this, clauses tied to intellectual property can quietly decide who controls the future, who owns the story, the brand, and the money that keeps coming in long after everything changes. That's not just legal detail, that's long-term power. In Harry and Meghan's case, it gets even more complex. Under California law, anything earned during the marriage is usually split equally. That includes massive deals like Netflix and Spotify, depending on timing.
At that moment last year, she was about to promote her Netflix series and didn't want to, firstly, be seen with Harry, and secondly, didn't want to go somewhere where she'd appear cheap and give it gratis. And this year, she is desperate to be seen. Yeah. And that's why she turned up. So I think she has a major problem, financially and professionally. And I think that Harry has a problem because he's lost his charity centre Bailey in Africa. He better up, and all these commercial deals are declining. I think that his reputation is somewhat toxic, and I think Invictus is his only lifeline, and there'll be problems with that too.
I mean, we've seen people leaving Invictus recently. Important, I think that's you mentioned the Disney special. Does the Disney special at all?
And now the stakes feel much higher because we're not talking about small assets. These are global-level contracts worth tens of millions. According to Bauer's reported sources, the agreement wasn't just about splitting assets. It focused heavily on intellectual property. That means control over stories, branding, and creative work. This includes the Sussex brand, business projects, and even material connected to Spare, reportedly structured under Meghan's side. That matters because control over intellectual property doesn't just decide money today. It decides money for years. Books, documentaries, licensing, future deals. All of that can be tied to who legally controls the rights.
Apparently Prince Harry is already talking to divorce lawyers.
So this is kind of interesting. This is the woman that the papers are citing for this reporting is a longtime royal insider, a socialite. She's been right. I've been following her because she's great TV. She's been right about a lot. And she's claiming she's heard from several sources now that he's hired a lawyer, and it happens to be somebody who's a great divorce lawyer and specializes in divorce. And it dovetails on other reports that he is spending a lot of his time in 2 hotels, one of which is in Montecito, another of which is not too far away, as an escape from her. It's entirely plausible. All they've done for 5 years is complain and moan and see themselves as downtrodden victims. That doesn't tend to spur a lot of feelings of love and happiness and close bonding. I mean, I guess in the crisis mode, it might.
And here's the twist. The clause in question reportedly wasn't even in the original 2018 agreement. Sources claim it was added later during a time of major life changes. Updates like that are normal, but the timing here is raising serious questions. In 2020, everything was shifting fast. They stepped away from royal duties, moved to California, and signed huge deals all at once. And right in the middle of that, the agreement was reportedly updated. That doesn't look random. It looks like a move made during a critical turning point. Bauer also spoke with lawyers connected to Meghan's previous divorce, and they described her as extremely focused during negotiations. Someone who reviews every detail and questions any—
Breaking right now, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle spent the week using the With Love Meghan promotional campaign to try and suggest that everything is rosy in their very, very rocky marriage. Not so fast, says Radar Online, which has revealed that the Sussex couple are now sleeping in separate beds. Let me take you through this bombshell, then we're going to get reaction from the royal YouTube sensation, according to Taz. Here's the report, though, from Radar Online. Meghan Markle and Prince Harry's marriage is said to be under major strain as backlash has gotten under the Duchess's skin so much that she's sleeping apart from her husband and wondering whether or not she would be more popular on her own, Radar Online can reveal. Amid ongoing rumours about the Sussexes' marriage being on the rocks, insiders told us Markle is cracking under the pressure of public scrutiny as she tries to claw her way back into Hollywood and launch her lifestyle brand, leaving her marriage to Harry hanging by a thread. Insiders told us Markle is starting to unravel and wonder if she would be better off as a solo act. Meghan is said to have even started to look up divorce lawyers. Sources claimed Harry was confronted by his unhappy...
Anything unclear. She worked with a full team, not just one advisor, which shows how seriously she approaches legal agreements. Sources say she took lessons from that experience, especially about protecting future income. And when you connect that mindset to what's happening now, it starts forming a clear pattern that's hard to ignore. During her earlier divorce, reports say she wanted a clean break. No ongoing financial ties, no drawn-out disputes. The goal was independence, full control, and a secure future. That approach, if consistent, could explain a lot about current decisions. Now look at 2020 again. Netflix, Spotify, and new business ventures all launching at once. According to Bauer, the prenup amendment was signed right in the middle of all that. And it may not just be about income, it's about control over brands, rights, and long-term positioning. Let's break that down even further because this part really matters. Deals like Netflix aren't just one-time payments, they're structured in layers. There are upfront payments, production budgets, performance bonuses, and future options. So when people hear $100 million, that doesn't mean cash in the bank. It's a ceiling, not a guarantee. And that's exactly what insiders reportedly told Bauer. The real earnings may have been closer to $40 million before the deal shifted into a more limited first-look arrangement. That means Netflix gets the first option on projects, but doesn't guarantee massive payouts unless content actually delivers. And here's where things get even more interesting. Some projects moved forward like the documentary series, but others, like the animated show Pearl, were canceled. That changes the entire financial picture. So now the question becomes, if the full amount didn't come through, what happened next? This is where the timeline starts lining up in a way that's hard to ignore. In 2022, right when some of those projects weren't gaining traction, Meghan reportedly began filing trademarks for American Riviera Orchard, a separate brand, under her name alone. That's not just a side project. That's a standalone business identity. At the same time, there were reports of new business structures being set up, separate from shared ventures. That kind of move signals a shift, from joint building to individual positioning. And according to Bauer, this follows a very specific pattern seen in high-level separations. First, build independent income streams. Second, separate business entities. Third, create legal clarity over ownership. Step by step, it builds distance, financially and structurally. Even the PR strategy lines up with this shift. Sunshine Sachs, known for handling high-profile crises and breakups, was dropped in 2020, officially labeled as a budget decision. But insiders reportedly say it was about control, bringing messaging in-house. Now suddenly in 2026, they're back again. And PR firms like that don't just come in randomly. They're usually brought in before major announcements to shape narratives, manage press, and prepare public reaction. That raises a serious question. What exactly is being prepared? Behind the scenes, financial activity also starts to look more strategic than emotional. Reports suggest structured repositioning, assets organized, accounts separated, protections put in place. The Montecito home, for example, is reportedly held in a way that may align with California homestead protections. Investments are said to be distributed across separate accounts. These aren't casual decisions. They're long-term strategies. Financial advisors who spoke to Bauer reportedly say this matches what high-net-worth individuals often do during major transitions. It's not panic, it's planning. And one detail keeps coming up again and again: ownership. Trademarks, business filings, and deals increasingly linked to Meghan individually, not jointly. Her podcast deal is reportedly under her name. And even the bench was structured as an individual project. According to Bauer, that marks a clear turning point. He also claims that's when public appearances together became less frequent. And when you combine that with everything else, the legal updates, financial shifts, and PR changes, it creates a pattern that's getting harder to dismiss. Then comes the prediction that's really turning heads. Bauer suggests a possible divorce could happen within 6 months of January 2026. That timeline isn't random. Under California law, residency requirements matter, but Meghan has reportedly been established there for years. That means legally the path is already clear if that step were ever taken. And if it happens, those legal clauses could activate immediately. That includes control over assets, brand rights, and intellectual property. Harry could risk losing influence over key areas, business decisions, storytelling rights, and even future earning potential tied to past experiences. There are also custody considerations since the children are based in California. Courts often prioritize stability and primary caregiving, which could play a major role in outcomes. And then there's the storytelling angle, which might be the most overlooked but most powerful part. If the reported clause is accurate, it could limit how Harry uses his own experiences commercially going forward. So the question keeps coming back. Does he see this coming? Bauer suggests something feels off, but he may not fully understand the legal position. He points to public behavior, visible stress, and shifting dynamics as possible signals. Sources claim he's been feeling more isolated over time, while advisors have warned about financial risks. But despite that, he continues pushing forward. That raises a deeper question. Why take that risk if the consequences could be this serious? One possible explanation, according to Bauer, is that the long-term impact may not affect both sides equally. And if that's true, it changes everything about how this situation is being played. His conclusion is direct and hard to ignore. He believes key terms, especially page 14, clause 7, may have been agreed to without fully understanding the long-term consequences. And now, that realization might just be starting to hit. So here's where things stand. This isn't just about a relationship, it's about legal structure, financial control, and long-term positioning. The agreement could shape everything moving forward. Assets, business power, and even control over personal stories. And the biggest debate right now? Whether this was all carefully planned from the beginning or if these are just connections that don't fully prove the full picture. Either way, one thing is clear. This situation is building fast and more details keep surfacing. Subscribe to Monarchy Cup so you don't miss what happens next.